Hello students, I'm Dr. Himanshu Kanpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today we are going to study the poem Rabbi Ben Ezra by Robert Browning in detail. The date of the publication and the central character. Rabbi Ben Ezra was first published in the volume of Browning's poems entitled Dramatis Personae, which was published in 1864. Rabbi in the Hebrew tongue means one learnt in theology and religious philosophy. Ben is a corruption of the Arabic word ibn, meaning son. So Ezra was such a Jewish scholar of the Middle Ages. He was born in Spain in 1092 and died in Rome in 1167, leaving behind him a number of works on religious philosophy and a rich collection of poems. But there are critics like I.A. Campbell who are of the view that the philosophy of the poem is indeed the philosophy of the Rabbi Ben Ezra, but some of the critics doubt what I.A. Campbell says, though there is little doubt that Browning was familiar with the works of the great Jewish philosopher of the Middle Ages. The philosophy expressed in the poem is that of Browning himself. The apparent, though there is a resemblance between the views expressed in the poem and those held by the great rabbi, may be accounted for by the fact that both of them were well read in the Bible and the work was the common source of their inspiration. Now we are going to begin with the stanza first of the poem. This poem is a dramatic monologue which is written from the perspective of a historical figure, that is Rabbi Ben Ezra, and the poem is narrated by real 20th century Jewish scholar, though we do not have any clearly identified audience in the poem. The first stanza of the poem: grow old along with me, the best is yet to be, the last of life for which the first was made. Our times are in his hand, who saith, our whole I plant. Youth shows but half, trust God, see all, nor be afraid. The great Jewish scholar of the Middle Ages, Ben Ezra, asks his audience to grow old in his company. He does not regard old age as the worst part of life, rather he considered it as the best part. In his philosophy, old age is the consummation of human life and the period of youth is but a preparation for it. Man and his future, his life are completely in the hands of God. Our times are in his hand. Life was planned by him, by God, as a complete whole in which each part has its value and significance for the whole, whether it is childhood, whether it is youth, whether it is adolescence, or whether it is old age. Youth is only half of human life and old age is the other half. Therefore, one should not be afraid of old age, rather than should welcome it. We should have full faith in God, who saith, a whole I plant. Youth shows but half, trust God. We should have full trust in God, full faith, see all, nor be afraid. There is no need to be afraid of old age. We go through the whole of life, including old age, without fear of any kind. Now we move on to the second stanza of the poem. Not that amassing flowers youth sighed, which rose make ours, which lily leave, and then as best recall. Not that admiring stars it yearned, nor Jove, nor Mars. Mine be some figured flame which blends, transcends them all. The rabbi does not find fault with the hopes and desires of youth. He says that in youth a man has many desires which may be likened to flowers, roses and lilies. Not that amassing flowers youth sighed, which rose make hours, which lily leave and then as first best recall, first rejected, then recall it. Okay, a youth has numerous desires and he cannot decide which particular desire he should reject, which he should try to achieve, like a lady with too full a store of fine dresses. In youth, a person rejects one desire as worthless, which lily leave and then best recall, but later on he recalls, he remember it and sighs for it. Not that admiring stars it yearned, nor Jove nor Mars. A young man is not satisfied with the real and the actual, but aspires much higher. These high ideals of youth may be compared to stars. Such bright stars as Jove and Mars do not satisfy him. He yearns for the stars which combine the glory and beauty of all stars and would be more splendid. He says that, youth says that, nor Jove nor Mars. Mine be some figured flame. Figured flame, mine is going to be some imagined stars, imagined star which blends, transcends them all. That star which combines the beauty of all stars and which outshines them all. Brilliant, he feels that, youth feels that, would be more splendid and brilliant than any known stars. However, such noble aspirations and ideals are natural to youth. Why? Because youth is that part time of life when he is full of energy, when he is energetic, when he is full of life, and he has a positive view towards life, and the rabbi sees no harm in them. We move on to the next stanza of the poem. Not for such hopes and fears, annulling youth's brief years, do I remonstrate. Folly wide the mark, rather I prize the doubt. Low kinds exist without, finished and finite clods, untroubled by a spark. Youth is a period of hopes and fears, but the rabbi does not find fault with such hopes and fears. A youth hopes that his desires and ideals would be fulfilled, and he is also afraid that he may fail to achieve his aspirations. It means when a person, when he is passing through that at youth, he is passing through that stage of life where he feels that his aspirations is going to be fulfilled, but at the same time he feels that he may fail to achieve, annulling youth brief years, putting to waste. Do I remonstrate, achieve his aspirations? But the rabbi does not regard such hopes and fears as mere waste of time. He says, do I remonstrate? Folly wide the mark. He does not consider them as sheer folly. Folly means, folly wide the mark, it means folly which never reach its aim. Folly means mistakes. As a matter of fact, these fears and hopes, desires and ideals distinguish a man from the lower animals. It means that these kinds of aspirations is only going to be owned by men, and this is the quality that distinguishes a man from the lower animals. Rather I prize the doubt, low kind exist without animals. The lower animals are perfect pieces of clay, finished with finite clods, untroubled by a spark. The lower animals are perfect pieces of clay without any soul or the spark of divine in them, because they do not have any kind of hopes, desires and ideals in their life. It is the things, aspirations, hopes, desires, these are all the things that are that can be associated with man. That is why they have no infinite longings and aspirations. But on the other hand, men aspire for many things in life. In other words, the hopes and fears of youth are an indication of the divine in him, of the presence of infinite within him. Now we move on to the fourth stanza of the poem. Poor want of life indeed, were men but formed to feed on joy, to solely seek and find and feast. Such feasting ended then as sure an end to men. Irks care the cropful bird, frets doubt the mock-rent beast. Human life would be empty and meaningless if its sole purpose is the gratification of the physical desires. If a man were created merely to eat and drink and indulge in physical pleasure, were man but formed to feed on joy, to solely seek and find and feast, then life is going to be meaningless. Such feasting ended then as sure an end to man. If he is going to be involved in such feasting, then life would be meaningless, and as sure an end to man, life would come to an end. If a man were created mainly to eat and drink and indulge in physical pleasures like the lower animals and do not have higher purpose in life, then his life would be futile and fruitless. In that case, man will perish, man will die, and his life come to an end as soon as he has gratified his desires. But this is not so with human beings. Man has fears and doubts, and this shows that he has a soul which is immortal and which does not end with that of the body. In this respect, man is superior to bird. Irks care the cropful bird, frets doubt the mock-rent beast. This is the thing that distinguishes a man from a bird, man from the beast. In this respect, man is superior to bird, which is not troubled by cares and worries as soon as its hunger is satisfied, and to the beast, which not troubled by any doubts as soon as its stomach is filled. For a man, he is not satisfied with, he is not like, his whole soul aim in his life is not to seek, find and feast. Otherwise the life is going to perish. Then what distinguishes a man from a bird and a beast is that he has many aspirations in life and he fights for that. His man fears and doubts, and this shows that he is a soul which is immortal. God has planned for him, and he in which he does not his aspirations does not end with death of the body. That is why Rabbi Ben Ezra considered man as superior to the bird, because bird only cares for their they want their hunger to be satisfied, but men aspires for more in life. We are going to continue this poem in our next video. Thank you.